real co-led collaboration that's going to look at how we can give our kids who struggle a better chance to be successful, how we are going to address the issues of race and poverty together. I really believe in this idea of community schools, and we're starting that more in Rochester. We don't have community schools unless the community is part of them. And I think we're going to be better if we do a better job in terms of really engaging our parents and our grandparents and our businesses out there in doing this. So I would just like, I guess at this point, I don't know if this is the appropriate place to ask for the board's approval. I don't think I have a right to do that. But this is sort of the way I think we want to reconfigure how we're going to move forward.
I'd like to say a couple things before I call on somebody again, since I've been just trying to direct traffic for the last few minutes. First of all, I think that most of the time students are not being kicked out of school. Would you agree with that, Mr. Munoz? I mean, they find alternative educational opportunities for them within the school setting, so that they're not just being sent out to go play at Apache Mall for 3 weeks because they've been suspended. So I'd like to make that point. The second point I would like to make, reluctantly going back to the OCR report, I don't believe we have any attorneys on this board, and I don't think any of us, well, I will speak for myself, I'm not capable of interpreting the language. The firm that we employ with Mick Walzberger, that is what they are trained to do. They are educational attorneys. They deal with this stuff all the time. So I think it might be helpful if Mick came and spoke to the board. Maybe the rest of you would maybe not feel that, but just to at least get his take on it. In terms of what you're trying to achieve with this community focus group, I think we need to back up several steps. First of all, just to define the terms. What is a referral? And when you say School X had 100 referrals, is it 100 different students? Is it 50 different students? Is it 5 different students? Is it repeating students? Are these students, are they special education students? Do they have some other kind of issue that might make it so that they have more difficulty meeting some of the behavioral expectations? I think those are all parts of it. And right now, people are not on the same page talking about what a referral is. So I don't see any point in trying to have a discussion when, one person says, well, this is what I think a referral says, and another person says, well, this is what I think it is, and school X is doing this in school, Y is doing this in school, whatever. So I think defining those terms and what actually is a referral, I think could be helpful, and I think this is where certainly our school administrators could certainly give us some input as to what that is.
We're actually working on that right now with staff. I've shared with you in my weekly updates. I let you know when we've had meetings with the building administrative team to go over their data. We have discovered a few things. For example, some schools we have these minors, things that a behavior that the teacher handles in the classroom. And then an office referral is something they send to the building administrator to handle. And we have some sites who, when it's entered into the system, minors get recorded as office referrals, but the student physically didn't go to the office or wasn't sent to the office, wasn't handled by the administrator. So we have that to clean up. We have another thing that as we've been meeting with administrators and going over their data, is that if a student is truant, that gets recorded as a major offense, and that probably should not be part of that. It's a separate thing, and we've shared with you, it's been a couple of years ago when the new thing that we're doing with the county and truancy and so on. So we're in the process of trying to establish that across the district. because as we are sending our data to OCR and putting it out on the website for people to look at, we want to make sure that the numbers represent the same thing from building A to building C. So we're in the process of doing that. What we plan to do, I'm hoping we'll be ready to do this in May with a study session with the board. It may end up being in June because we have a couple other things that we have to do in May as a board as well. But we will be bringing to you data by individual site. For example, we may put up on the screen Elementary 1. Here's their data. Let's say they have 200 office referrals over the year. And then we'll break that down further. Those 200 represent 6 kids. Student A may have 100 office referrals. Student B may have 52 office referrals. Those are semi-made up numbers, but not quite made up as I would hope they would be. But and then break it down a little bit further that within those 5 kids that are contributing to 80-90% of the data, maybe 2 of those are in a setting 3 special ed classroom that are for students who have severe behavior issues that we're working with them on. So trying to give you a little bit clearer picture of what the numbers represent. And often when you just look at the numbers, sometimes people can just paint a picture of the entire building or the district as a whole, thinking we have a whole bunch of kids that are constantly being disciplined or sent to the office, when it's really a very small percentage of our student population. Of our 17,000 plus students, it's an extremely small percentage that represent those numbers that are currently on our website. So we're in the process of working on breaking those down and having conversations with building administrators. We are even breaking them down by classroom and having conversations with principals about that. So that is happening. Not in a public meeting for the entire world to hear, but it is taking place, and that is something that is in our agreement with OCR, that we do have those conversations with administration, and we are having those. I probably shouldn't bring this up again because we kind of put the OCR agreement thing away, but I just do want to comment on one thing.
We do have to.
We did go into an agreement because after almost 6 years of dealing with this, we said let's resolve this. Let's not do another 6 years of you coming down, talking to people, and we submitting stuff to you. If you find something wrong, find it. Let's fix it. If you didn't find anything wrong, let's get something agreed upon. And that's what we did. And it was just to the point that we couldn't see any purpose in going on several more years of what we've been doing for 6 years. So that's why we initiated the conversation with them and say, let's get this resolved. So that's the purpose of the involuntary agreement. That's why we did it. So anyway, I had to clear that. But we are planning on bringing that data to the board. And yes, in the agreement, we do have to, and I think we've shared with you at least a couple of times, that one of Afalabi's responsibilities that he meets with building principals and goes over their data. I've been now, and Carl and I have been with Afalabi having those monthly conversations with building principals about, well, they're actually not just a principal, their entire administrative team, about their discipline data. So, and that is something that's in the agreement, that we have those monthly conversations with OCR. So that's happening, but that's something that we're hoping to bring to you in May. If we can work it in the schedule of May. If not, we'll do it in June, because we still have to have those. We have a study session on the budget that's on there already. You have to have a session to evaluate your superintendent. That's also required to be done in May. And then we also